And good morning, everybody. We are doing one of our live streams where we're telling you exactly what is happening with the real estate market throughout Georgia and South Carolina. And with me today, I've got almost everybody on the team. It's very exciting. So we have agents from the Savannah area, from the Atlanta metro area, and from Augusta. So why don't I just let everybody unmute themselves and introduce themselves real fast? Let's go with Kimberly and then Lori.
Hey guys, I'm Kimberly Lahadney and I'm in Augusta, Georgia, but I live over in Evans, so I do a little more Columbia County, and I'm excited to talk to you guys. And both Lori and I are licensed in South Carolina, so we can help you over there too.
Cool. Good morning, Lori.
Good morning. Hi, everyone. I'm Lori Merrill Price, and I live in Augusta, but lived in Columbia County for about 15 years, so know that area very well. And as Kimberly said, we're licensed in both South Carolina and Georgia, so we can help you on both sides of the river.
Very cool. And Altovise is in the metro Atlanta area.
Hi, I'm Altovise. I service the Atlanta metro area. Sometimes I'll go elsewhere, but my main service area is the metro area and sort of north of Atlanta. And I am happy to be here.
What do you mean sometimes you go elsewhere? Where else would you go?
Sometimes I might go venture south and help out my fellow clients that want to purchase south of Atlanta. It's not
like
normally
McDonough area. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, no, McDonough's a little far south. That's about 2 hours for me. So I would say probably no further south than probably southwest, like Gwinnett County.
Okay, got it. Mm-hmm. And then we have Katie and Nicole in the Savannah area.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So we service the Savannah area. We service a very large area in Savannah, but I do want to tell you guys, we've had some confusion recently with some clients thinking that even though we're licensed in Georgia, that doesn't mean we cover the whole state of Georgia. Each of us are a part of a certain board of realtors or association that covers a certain county. That's what we get access to. So our MLS has access to those properties, or we can actually unlock the lock boxes. So whatever area we service is that specific area and not the whole state that we are licensed in.
Bring it home, Katie.
Yes, bring it home. I guess that's me. I service, like Nicole, all of the Savannah areas, as long as our MLS is allowing us to unlock lock boxes. And I agree with Nicole. Sometimes it seems like areas that are associated with Savannah specifically, I don't know about the other areas, but it can be confusing that people think that we service all over the place, like Statesboro and further out, and sometimes those places have different MLSs. So we typically service what is as close to Savannah. I live in Effingham County, so the rural areas are part of the big parts for me in downtown Savannah and close to the island. So I absolutely love servicing Savannah.
You know, that's a really good point, because we work in this industry every day and we kind of forget that the general public doesn't necessarily know how that works. Every individual association of realtors will have a specific MLS that they are part of. And in order for us to be able to open lock boxes in another area, we have to be members of that MLS and sometimes that association as well. And of course, all of them require more money, right? And so we typically don't belong multiple MLSs when they're hours away. Like, Altovise, I love you, but I'm not driving to Atlanta to show you a house. That's going to be like a 5-hour drive from here to Cherokee County, for example. So we typically cover the downtown area and then the surrounding suburbs. But if it's farther than that, I'd say a good rule of thumb is if it's more than an hour's drive, it's probably not in the MLS. So if you guys are looking for any Statesboro, Jekyll Island, North Georgia mountains, stuff like that, Macon, those are areas that we probably don't service. Just check with us first if those are the areas that you're looking at. We know lots of great agents all over the states. We can absolutely refer you to other people. So I thought we would talk today about what is happening with the market. I've been having conversations with everybody lately. What is happening where you are? What are you seeing? Anybody want to start? Who wants to start? Raise of hands. Don't all jump in at once. I'm going to pick. All right, Kimberly, you're starting.
Well, I think I was just easy pickings because Karen and I had a really long conversation a couple of days ago about this. We saw a really interesting shift over the summer here in Augusta, and I recognize that it could have happened elsewhere. I've heard a lot of agents just nationwide talking about how wonky the summer was, prices adjusting a little bit. We literally, or at least for me, but I've heard it from other people at other brokerages even, it was almost like a 3 week standstill. Like nothing was happening. Nothing was showing. People weren't moving. And it was right when we had that really big increase in interest rates. And all of a sudden, it was like people freaked out. I was working with 7 clients at that time. 5 of them said, you know what? We're thinking about relocating, but it's not necessary right now. We're going to put this on hold, which was like, oh my gosh, we're paused. But what this also did was the houses that were on the market started to freak out a little bit. And we saw some price lowering finally. And we saw our buyers that were still in the game able to make some really amazing deals. In fact, the one transaction I have under contract at the moment got an incredible deal on a house in Riverwood in the Evans area. And the house is gorgeous. It's a 3,200 square foot house. And it would have typically gone for about 410, and he got it in the 3s. I mean, it was crazy. Now that's not always typical. He was willing to take on a little bit of a fix, but we're just seeing that buyer not having to sell their first child thing going on anymore. And maybe we're really seeing a shift back over to a more balanced or buyer-friendly market.
Which makes me really, really happy because I feel like our buyers over the last few years have really gotten the shaft. It was, oh, you like this house? Well, so do 45 other people. So you're going to have to pay more than the asking price. You're going to have to waive the appraisal. You're going to have to offer a crazy amount of your earnest money. And like you said, give up your firstborn child. I mean, it was getting rather ludicrous for a while there. And if it will start to come back now where buyers have a little bit more leverage, I think that's a great thing. Nicole, tell me about what you're seeing.
So here in the Savannah market, I've been sharing this with my clients a lot recently. A couple months ago, just like Kimberly said, it was a hot seller's market where it was like 20 plus offers. And just like Karen had said, like you literally had to give up everything in order to try to fight and win. And even at some people's best, they still didn't even win in those competitive situations. So right now in the Savannah market, it's still a seller's market, meaning that there's still competition. It may be 2 to 5 offers instead of 20 to 25 offers. But what that means is you still have to bring your best offer, but that doesn't mean you have to waive appraisals or have a crazy amount of earnest money or waive all contingencies. You have a little bit more options with the terms of the contract, but that doesn't mean that, we can offer 20,000 less and ask for 10,000 in closing costs. That we're not there yet. And I don't think that we really honestly ever get to that point. It's just a matter of analyzing each property that you're making an offer on. How long has it been on the market? Did they price it well? There's a lot of factors that go into it besides getting the best deal. So we're still a seller's market. And I can attest to Kimberly's, the freeze that happened. I personally listed our own property at the beginning of July, and literally for like 10 to 14 days, no activity. And my husband was freaking out, and thank goodness I'm a real estate agent, because he was like, what is happening? We need to drop the price now. And I was like, no, we're not even getting anybody to see the property. So we have no type of feedback, anything. So now after that little freeze happened, we've had tons of showings. We did get under contract. It fell out for the buyer got cold feet, but we've had tons of showings, and everybody's feedback has been that it's priced well. So you also will see, it's just, you have to have an agent that knows how to walk you through what time of the market it is and give you realistic expectations. And some houses are still going to fly quickly because they're the perfect house, so you just have to be ready for those opportunities, basically.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting that we had this frenzy of activity for so long. And then right around the end of June, it just came to a screeching halt. And so, Kimberly and Nicole, you've both said what happened, and we were seeing it too. I put a property on the market. We got no showings. There was nothing. It was like, what just happened? Did we enter this alternate reality all of a sudden? And it only lasted for 2 or 3 weeks. And then people went, oh, okay. I guess it wasn't anything crazy to worry about. And Kimberly, I know you and I had a big, long discussion about interest rates. I was saying that people are freaking out about interest rates, but keep this in mind. Interest rates are lower now than they were in 1980. They are lower now than they were in 2005. So even though they seem higher than what we've had the last several years, they're still historically low, and people freak out. Oh my gosh, we're in the fives. I'm like, I remember when I bought my first house, and to get a deal in the fives would have been a screaming deal. And in the 80s, my parents bought a house in the Detroit metro area. I think it was 13% interest rate. So did nobody buy a house in the 80s? No, of course not. People still need to move. We were relocating from Pittsburgh. We had to find a place to live when we got there. It was not an ideal interest rate, but they bought a house anyway. So just try to keep it in perspective that the twos that we had a few years ago, that was completely artificial. That was manufactured for a very specific purpose. That is not normal. But we got spoiled. We got very used to that. And so now to have something in the fours and fives seems like crazy expensive. The interest rates are still lower than they were 40 years ago. What do you guys think about that?
Karen, I agree. And you know what else? I mean, that's like you said, the interest rates have been artificially low for the last 2.5 years because of COVID. And also because of COVID, during that time, people were getting, additional monies from the government. And so people were saving up. And so it was kind of like a perfect storm of, Americans had a little bit extra money or excess money, and then the interest rates were low. So we were able to jump in. And I think that's what caused this frenzied seller's market. But honestly, like you said, these were the interest rates pre-COVID. So in about, I would say 2018, 2019, the interest rates were about 5.5%, 6%. So we're still, like you said, doing very well. The interest rates are higher than 2 to 3, but they're still historically low. So that's one thing that I try to tell my clients, or, try to reassure them that, listen, these interest rates, although they're higher, they are still very low. And so it is still a good time to buy. And because this frenzied seller's market is dying down, that's also another indication that it is still a good time to buy. And I'll also say that I also noticed that slowdown for about a month or so. And I think that's what it was. It was right when the rates increased, I think for the second or third time. And people just kind of got, scared away from that, thinking or wondering whether or not they can afford their monthly payment. And so I did see that freeze. But what's so interesting is that I listed a home in April. I listed a home in May. And those two homes, like in the first 2 days, got, 40 plus showings, over 10 offers. That was April and May. And then in June, I listed a home very similar to the homes that I listed in the previous months. And for the first few days, we only had a couple showings. And in total, we only got 4 offers. And the highest offer was only about $4,000 over asking price. So I am definitely seeing that shift, the slowdown. And like Nicole said, it is still a seller's market, meaning you still have competition. You're just not, giving up your firstborn and offering your blood and everything else. So,
well, and I do want to add to that. What's making it still a seller's market, at least in the Augusta area, is we still have reluctant sellers. So we have there's just not enough inventory. We've seen a bit of an increase, like all of a sudden all the people that really have to move suddenly put more houses on the market, but still we have very few houses on the market. I mean, I can name, like, at least in the luxury side of things, I can name about 5 properties that came on the market in the last month. And with high luxury, and I'm talking about like sevens up to several million, a lot of those are just sitting. But that's very typical of luxury. Luxury doesn't
Yeah.
always move fast. But um, I'm also very much in the price point of like 360 to 450. And some of the 450s are, we have very few of those. We have very few coming on the market. Like, we've just started in the last week seeing more inventory come on. So that's what makes it still a bit of a seller's market, because if everybody's going for the same 250, 350 houses and those are going quickly, you're still going to need to be, like what Nicole said, prepared, have your finances ready. But I would say you have a little more wiggle room, because during the crazy, when we talk about giving your first child, in our area, we had people who were waiving the appraisal, waiving the inspection, which we never ever tell you, you cannot do that. Just, that's a stupid thing to do. Don't ever waive the inspection. And then the other thing we saw was escalation clauses. And escalation clauses to me are really dangerous, and they border on, well, let's just say this. VA loans and FHA loans are not allowed to even do escalation clauses. They're not allowed. So you're not.
Can you define what those are for people who don't know what an escalation clause is?
So basically, well, there are two kind of examples of it. An escalation clause could be that for every offer you get at this price, we're willing to go up another $1,000 or X amount of dollars above the highest offer. So there's that. But then there's an escalation clause. It's probably not the right definition, but we will come up this much more over the appraisal. So if the appraisal comes in low, we will go up above the appraisal, and they'll add an escalation clause on that. Like, if somebody else does it, then we'll go up a little bit more. And when I was saying that VHS, there are no VHSs here. FHA and VA loans, they legally do not allow a buyer to even make any kind of offer like that. So that's your first time home buyer, and that's your veteran and your military service member, and you're not letting them buy a house. And I believe that obviously Lori and I are in a military area, and Savannah is in a military area. And these are men and women that are coming in to serve us. So I just thought that was a very dangerous time. And we're not seeing that right now. People are not offering that, and I'm glad they're not, because that got a little ridiculous.
I'm glad they're not too.
You know what's interesting is, and this is just a fun fact that I want to share with you guys. I've spoken with many agents who want to move to the Savannah area because for whatever reason, the area that they've been living in, they just want to come down to a more warmer weather and coastal area. But some of the agents that I've spoken to, when the market was really hot, like for example, in Oregon, I had an agent I spoke to, and she listed a property in the 700s, and she said that it sold for, I think, 1.2. And the escalation clauses in that area are like 250,000 above ask, or whatever I'll pay 250,000 above whatever the highest offer is. Like, crazy huge escalation, where ours was like, I'll pay 1,000 or 10,000 or 5,000, but nothing in like the hundreds of thousands to try to beat people out. So I will say that even though we had to deal with the crazy sellers market, I know that there were a lot of states that had it way worse than we did in the Savannah area. So I'm very thankful for that we didn't have to deal with like that type of craziness.
Very true. I was talking with an agent. I think she's in Long Beach, California, and the house was listed at $1 million, and it went for like 1.2 or 1.3 million. So hundreds of thousands of dollars over the asking price, waiving all kinds of inspections. And I'm so glad that you guys said that earlier. please do not waive your inspections. You can say, I will still do inspections, and maybe I won't ask you to pay to fix anything, but you still need to do your inspection so that you know what you're getting. And I'll give you a perfect example. My husband and I want to remodel our master bathroom. When we bought this house, I hated everything about this master bathroom. And we had a home inspection done, thank goodness, because we knew exactly what it needed. But now that we are in the process, like we pulled the panel off the front of the bathtub because it's a jetted bathtub. And now that I see what's under there, I'm just completely horrified. And if we had not done any sort of inspection at all, I'm sure that we would have just been in for a really rude awakening. As it was, like we knew what we were getting into, but it's even worse than what our home inspector had told us that it was going to be. So imagine that you buy this house, you pay more than they were asking, you've waived the appraisal, and you say, if I'm buying it for $250 and it appraises for $240, I'm going to pay the $10,000 difference out of my own pocket, and I'm not going to do any inspections. And then you decide, hey, let's remodel the bathroom. And you find out that there's all kinds of stuff wrong with it. There are leaky pipes and whatnot. You'd feel like you were completely taken advantage of. And we don't want that for you. We do not want our clients to ever feel like they got the short end of the stick. We want you to go into it saying, well, maybe I'm going to pay a little bit more, but it was the exact house that I wanted. And so I'm willing to do that because this is the house that I want. This is the school district I want our kids to be in. This is the neighborhood we want to be in. This is how close I want to be to work. All of the reasons that make you choose a specific house. But you need to make that decision with all of the facts rather than it was the only house that I could get. And I was just so tired of writing offers that I finally just took it and was like, fine, I'll take whatever. So that makes me happy. Katie, what are your buyers seeing? Are they much happier with this environment that we're in now?
I think some of them are. I think that they're also a little bit unsure because there's a shift going on. So it kind of makes our buyers think that, oh, this property has been sitting on the market for 10 days. So I can offer below asking and the seller can pay closing costs. And it's hard to help them understand that even though a property's been sitting longer, we still need to understand it's a seller's market and the comps still match the price. And you're still competing against other buyers that are coming in. So, having an understanding of what the comps are and understanding that as the interest rates rise, it doesn't mean that you can't purchase right now. It just means that maybe you need to lower your budget, regardless of what you were pre-approved for, to help cover what your monthly charge would be for a mortgage. We don't want to see people on a ramen budget. It's my favorite Karen saying because that's what she preached to me over and over. So I try to help people understand that, if your interest rate has risen, you have to do the math. It's not a do or die kind of situation. And I try to help if, we have sellers that we talk to, you at one point are a seller, yes, but you're going to be a buyer. So remember that as you're going through these, that you have to purchase too. So you will have to go through the same thing all these buyers are. So it's important to understand the process and to understand give and takes and what's a good let go of when it comes to your offers that you're receiving, how long to wait, different things like that. So I think it's important to have a really good agent who is going to explain things to you. I do have a lot of clients who still have that expectation that sending us properties through Zillow is the best way for us to be able to help them find properties instead of, focusing on what's in the MLS because of how active it is.
I'm glad you brought that up. Let's take a moment to discuss. All right. For those of you watching that think Zillow is the greatest, it has a beautiful user interface. I'm not going to lie. When you go on the Zillow website and you search for properties, it's got a great user experience because they have so many filters. You can do that on our website too, by the way. And it will be accurate information because Zillow does not pull real-time information. How many times does a client say, I found this house on Zillow, here's the address, and you go look it up and it either has already sold, like closed, sold, or it's at least pending. What percentage of the time is that? 90%, 95%? Like rarely is the house
99.9.
even
98.
still available. Yeah. So you're finding these houses on Zillow, but they were gone a long time ago because they're not updating the information quickly. If we're not sending it to you, it's because it's not available, it's not in your price range, or it does not match the criteria that you told us you wanted. So if you tell me I absolutely must have 4 bedrooms and the house has 3, I'm not going to email it to you. I'm not sending it to you. You've told me that 4 is the absolute minimum that you'll even consider. That's why you're not getting it. If it's 300,000 and your budget is 275, I'm probably not going to send that to you either, because I don't want you to get your hopes up and then find out you can't afford it. And I don't want you to overpay. I don't want you to get in over your head. And then when you guys go and look them up and you find them on Zillow, most of the time they are not available anymore. Or my other favorite is the homeowner is behind on their mortgage payment, so it shows up as a foreclosure. Y'all, that does not mean that their house is for sale. I am
Yeah.
not going to rock up and go, ding dong, hi, I see that you're 3 months behind on your mortgage payment. Would you like to sell your house? I'm going to be looking at a double barrel shotgun between my eyes. No, thank you. That doesn't mean that the house is for sale. It simply means that they're behind on their payments. Now, could the bank foreclose on them and eventually it will become an REO actively on the market? Sure. But at the same time, they could just pay the back payments that they owe, bring it current. It doesn't mean that they were ever planning on selling their house. So pretty much I hate Zillow because 90% of the information on their website is completely inaccurate. If you are looking in the Georgia, South Carolina areas that we service, GCHLuxuryGroup.com, you can do all of the searching that you could do on Zillow, but it will be pulling real-time information from MLSs that we access. And we have access to 4 different MLSs on our website. So do yourself a favor, look for the information in the place where it's accurate. And that's on GCHLuxuryGroup.com. Thank you. All right. Oh, I love the comments that are coming in. If you guys have any questions for us, please feel free to put them in the comments so we can address them live. You're going to love Savannah. I moved here last fall. Oh, I am so glad. Yay.
Yay!
Love ya. Whoever you are. I don't think that's your real name, but thank you for watching our videos. I'm glad you loved it. Yeah, Gloria commented earlier and said she's going to be moving to Savannah. So I definitely love it, but then again, I'm kind of biased. Lori, what do you...
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead, Katie.
So one thing that I wanted to also say to people is that when we ask you guys, what your budget is, one of the hard things is that you tell us, maybe your budget is $250, but then when you're sending us properties from Zillow that are 300, like Karen said, we aren't able to pull those for you, or you're not seeing them from us because you gave us a different price range. And I think it's super important for you guys to understand we're not here to make you spend the top of your budget. That's not why we're asking. We want you to be able to see the inventory because inventory has been low. So if you're sending us properties from other websites and feeling frustrated, it's not because we aren't putting in what you're telling us. It's just you're sending properties, and we're okay with you wanting to look at properties at price if it's what you would like to purchase. We're not going to push you at spending the top of your budget. We just want you to see everything that is in your price range. So I think it's super important for people to understand that too.
Yeah,
Such a good point, Katie. I get that all the time. Clients will, tell me what they're looking for. I have your criteria set. I don't want to go above $500,000. And then every other day they're sending me links from Zillow, homes that are 550 and 600. Well, how come you didn't send us this? Well, because your budget is 500,000 and I'm not going to send you out 550 or 600 if I know that you're not going up to that price point. So yeah, sometimes it can come off as if they think you're not sending them all of the the properties that are available to them. But if we're sticking within a criteria, then you are seeing all of the available properties within that criteria in real time.
Yeah. I would also say to that people think that the house is just above their criteria price point. if we move into a buyer's market, maybe they'll be able to get a deal. They'll say, oh, well, if it's 550, we could offer like 520 or 510. And so I get that a lot. And then I wanted to add one more thing about Zillow. If you have had a buyer's presentation with us and you're working with us, we talk to you about for sale by owners. Sometimes you do not see a house that is for sale on Zillow because it's a for sale by owner. And then you send it to us and I say, do you remember that conversation we had about for sale by owners? Do you want to pay my fee? If you don't want to pay my fee, don't send me for sale by owners. I'm happy to go talk to them, but they may not be cooperating with real estate agents. And what that means is that you're going to either have to pay my commission, which as a buyer, you don't have to, or it will just be a very complicated deal, or by the grace of God and the miracle from heaven, you get a for sale by owner that loves agents and isn't trying to like make a fast buck. And we have a great transaction. That sometimes happens, but I just wanted to say that to you because it's not like we're saying, oh, for sale by owners are not allowed. They cannot put stuff on the MLS. So that's why you're only seeing them on Zillow. So I just wanted to say that really fast.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, I've been I've been in real estate now for 17 years. I have sold exactly one for sale by owner where I represented the buyer, and that's because the buyer drove past, saw the sign in the front yard. I called the seller and I said, "I am a realtor. I have a signed agreement with a buyer. If I bring my buyer to show him your house and he loves it and wants to write an offer, are you willing to pay the commission to my company?" And if the seller says no, pound sand. The reason I'm selling it for sale by owner is because I have no equity in this house and I can't afford to pay a real estate agent. Well, someone has to pay the fee because this is how we earn a living. This is how I pay my mortgage and put food on the table. And that would become the buyer's responsibility. If the buyer says, I don't have that money to pay earnest money, pay a down payment, pay for inspections, and now pay your commission on top of that, then that's entirely your decision. But sometimes for sale by owners are very difficult to work with. Like they don't want to give up anything. They want to get they this is a very broad overgeneralization, but in my experience, most for sale by owners, they want to be the winner in the transaction and they want the buyer to be the loser in the transaction. They don't see this as a win-win. They don't really want to negotiate. They want everything and they don't want to give up anything. And for you in the buyer position, that's not a great place to be. That's when you feel like you're being taken advantage of.
I've also, just real quick, there's also sellers who list their property on MLSs with online brokerages who just like charge them a flat fee. They're not a part of it at all. I had a transaction when I was, it wasn't a transaction. We made an offer on a property when I first started real estate, and the seller or whoever the listing brokerage was, that was like an online listing brokerage, they tried to lower the commission. I think, Karen, do you remember this when I told you about this? They tried to lower my commission, even though they had it listed at a specific commission that they were paying the buyer's agent. And then they tried to lower it right after we made an offer. But I took a screenshot of the MLS and I was like, hey, this is what you had listed. You're trying to lower it just because we made an offer. And I'm literally catching you in what you're doing. So it was very interesting, but that happens as well, where sellers just like, they're the ones that the buyer's agent has to contact. They're very hard to work with. They don't like to negotiate. They like to be sneaky. And that's not everybody. I'm not saying everybody, but that was my experience that happened to me. And thank goodness I caught it. We didn't end up going under contract with them, but that does happen as well, where sellers just list with a cheap brokerage and they don't have any type of marketing besides putting it in the MLS, and then we have to deal with it. So,
yep. So just, to summarize everything that we said, if we're not sending you the property to look at, it's because it does not match the criteria that you gave us. And we never want to convince you to spend more money than you are prepared to spend. I will never sleep well at night knowing that I talked you into a house that was way more expensive than what you could afford. And now you're eating top ramen for every meal. Like, that will never happen with our team because we have ethics and we want to be able to sleep at night and we want to feel good about helping people find the ideal home for them and for their families and to love where they live. And pushing you to buy something more expensive that's not how I want to earn a living. And none of these ladies on the team feel that way. Nobody wants to do that to you. So again, if you tell us that your absolute max budget is 550, we're not going to send you houses that are listed for 600. Maybe you could send one for 555 and say, well, it's been on the market for 3 months, not 10 days. 10 days is not sitting on the market, people. But if it's been sitting for 3 months, 4 months, longer, okay, maybe there is a little bit of flexibility and we could try to offer lower. But if it's been on the market for 10 days at 550 and you think you're going to offer 500 and they're going to be thrilled to take your offer, you're going to be in for a rude awakening. When they are offended by the offer, they probably won't even counter. And now you're just wasting your time. So we're trying to give you advice to help you get the house that you want. Yes, we're in a position now where we can do a little bit more negotiating than we were able to do before, but within reason. Like, we're not coming in at, 50 cents on the dollar. That's not where we are. It's not 2007. So maybe someday it will, but right now, not yet. Lori, we haven't heard much from you yet. You got anything you want to wrap us up with?
Well, I really had some things more on the market side because I did look at a lot of what was going on both locally as well as nationally and did some comparison. I love this word that I saw over and over that national economists have used, which is our market is not dropping or plummeting or any of those great headline words, but we're normalizing. So that means after all the crazy frenzy that everybody talked about earlier, we're just coming back to a level ground a little bit in a normal. Yes, it's still heavy on the seller side. And yes, we are still seeing nationally and locally a much shorter selling time. On average, I think locally we've been about 28 days, which is still well faster than it's been in previous years. Our prices are still holding up, and they're going to continue to hold up because of some of what's happened both nationally as well as locally. And I think I've talked to you, Karen, and I've talked a little bit about an economist that I follow who's done some incredible predictions. And I thought one of the explanations that I heard there was accurate, in that real estate cycles are really 20-year cycles. Everyone looks in their microcosm of whether you're buying or selling right now, you're looking at what's happening right now. But it's really a longer cycle. And that if you look over a 20-year cycle from 2002 to 2022, we are at a 4.5% appreciation, which is exactly normal. And so all we did the last few years was really catch up. And that is part of the reason, all those scary words that are out there in the headlines, like, is there a market crash, or is there something like that coming? I thought that was helpful. And the other thing, I was piggybacking on a little bit of what Katie said earlier on mortgage rates and interest rates, and I think Nicole talked about it too. Freddie Mac on Friday 8/5 was 4.99. It had come down a little below. So a 30-year Freddie Mac was 4.99. That is pretty good news. That is not bad. That's not bad news. We're not 2%, but 4.99 is a great rate. So I think we're still we're on very solid ground on both sides of the fence. And I like that. Like I said, that's kind of my word probably this week, maybe this month, is the normalizing of the market.
Agree. I couldn't have said it better myself. Just because things have changed does not mean that it is a bad market. It's just becoming more balanced. It's becoming more normal. And what I love is that our sellers and our buyers will have more equal footing, so that it's not all slanted in favor of the seller and the buyer gets the shaft. Now we're going to have a little bit more of an equal footing, so that when we are truly negotiating on an offer, both parties are giving and taking a little bit. Both parties are meeting somewhere in the middle. One party is not winning, one party is not the loser. I feel much better about the transaction when everyone walks away at the end achieving what it is that they wanted. The seller got a good price, they were able to sell their house. The buyer feels like they got a good price, they got the house that they wanted. Everyone is happy. Nobody feels like they got, the short end of the stick. Well, thanks for joining us all today. I hope you enjoyed our live stream. I love doing this where we can keep you up to date with what the market is doing in Georgia and South Carolina. Tune in the next time we go live with some more details about what the market is doing. And maybe we'll talk more about new construction and what's happening with all of that stuff. But until then, thank you so much for tuning into our channel, and we will see you on the next video. Bye, everybody.